Hi, you know who I am. I want to discuss something very important, and that is phones. I have owned an iOS device for, I want to say, about a year and a half. I had an iPod Touch and then I had an iPhone 4 after that. I had the iPhone for about a year and a half, I had the iPod Touch for about 6 months. So I want to say I've been an iOS user for about 2 years now. But May of this year, I decided to take the plunge since my iPhone 4 is becoming very, very slow, and I decided to get the Samsung Galaxy S4. Now, this is a fabulous phone. This is great. This is probably the best Android phone you can buy right now. But one thing, well, more than one thing, a couple of things have bugged me ever since I got this thing, and I've noticed. You know, it's just those tiny things that most people, well, I don't want to say most people wouldn't care about, because they do, but I want to explain to you guys why so many people love the iPhone. A lot of people don't understand it. It's low spec, it's priced very high, you know, the OS is basic, it doesn't allow a whole lot of customization, but I have been using an iPhone for the past couple of days, and it reminded me why I chose the iPhone in the first place. Now, the reason being is that no one other than tech geeks like us, like you and I, that are watching this video right now, no one other than us gives a rat's hat about specifications on a smartphone. They just don't. They care about app selection and smoothness. Both of those things the iPhone nails. You cannot deny that 100%. I've noticed that a lot of my applications on my Galaxy S4 here are not very optimized for this device. There's a good reason for that, and I totally understand that. It's because there are hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands of different Android-based devices that app developers have to develop for. Now, you can't expect them all. You can't expect applications to run on all of those phones. But, you know, this phone having a nice 1080p screen, a 5-inch screen, some applications just don't look very good because they haven't been updated or, you know, optimized for a device with this nice of a screen. So the other thing being is that, here, I'll show you an example. I downloaded Angry Birds today, and let me mute my sound here. Well, that didn't work. Whoops. Let me just turn down my volume. Okay, so look at what you're looking at right here. Do you see that? That is the level selection menu on Angry Birds. Now, you can see just how tiny all of those levels are. Now, there's no way to zoom into these. That's just how it is because this is a 1080p screen. I'm pretty sure that this application thinks it's running on a big tablet with a 1080p screen. So, unless you have really good vision like I do, you're not going to be able to read that. It's too small. And if you go back to the main menu, it's even worse because look how tiny that button is right there. Look how tiny that settings button is. You're going to have to like tap that a million times to get it to press if you don't have, like I said, if you don't have very good vision. Now on the iPhone, since there are only, well, on iOS devices, since there are only like 4 different screen sizes, it's very easy to develop apps on. I mean, you only have to make it work on 4 different screen sizes. Now, I understand that, but there's really nothing you can do about it on Android. And I was using this iPhone, and I have all my applications on there, and I was using them, and it reminds me why I like the iPhone. All of the applications are very tightly optimized for that phone, obviously, because there are a lot less phones to develop for. It was just overall a better experience, in my opinion. You know, you didn't have any of those weird optimization issues with the resolution being off. You didn't have these teensy tiny little buttons on the application. It just worked. Another thing, even though this phone has a 1.9 gigahertz dual or quad-core processor, and 2 gigabytes of RAM, some of the best specs you can get on a phone right now, the operating system is not perfect. It lags sometimes. It's jittery every now and then. I mean, sometimes if I swipe an app page, it's not doing it now, but sometimes if you press the home button, it's very jittery. The animations are off. It's just wrong, even with all this good of spec. I haven't noticed that on anything other than older iOS devices. If you're running, you know, iOS version that's 1 year newer, 1 or 2 years newer sometimes, chances are it's still going to run pretty well. You know, my iPhone 4 was on iOS 6 for a while, and that thing it was so slow and crappy, but that will happen with these kinds of phones too. Well, not so much this one, but anyway, that's not the point. Another thing is app exclusivity. Now, like I said, it's harder to develop applications on an Android phone. It just is. A lot of developers develop on iOS first, and sometimes exclusive. Sorry, my camera's batteries died. Anyway, what I was getting at before, I left my Galaxy S4 over there, but what I'm trying to say, basically, before I go on in a more rambling type video, what I'm trying to say is that, one, the average consumer does not care at all about what's inside the phone, what kind of processor it has, how much RAM it has. They don't give a rat's hat about that. They care about the software, what you're looking at, the fluidity of the operating system, the optimization of the apps, the app selection, and those three things are what make the iPhone good. And, you know, like I said, using an iPhone for a couple of days, that reminded me exactly why I went for the iPhone in the first place. Don't get me wrong, I love my S4, it's a great phone, but it's not perfect. If I could go back to an iPhone right now, I would. Not to say that my S4 is a bad phone, it's a great phone, it's amazing, I love it, and I'm glad I bought it, but for the applications, like the fluidity and the exclusivity, some of my applications I can't find on Android or just simply don't run. I don't use my phone. I don't own a phone because it has a fast processor, because it is the best phone you can buy in terms of specifications. I own it because it's a phone and it works for me. So that is just a extremely rambling conclusion, just an explanation on why people love Apple devices and why they're still popular. I know Android is the most popular operating system by a long shot now, but it wasn't before. But anyway, yeah, that's just a highly jumbled video on why some people love the iPhone and why I still do. So, thanks for watching!